Welcome to KLEAN Radio, the show about addiction and how to overcome it, featuring celebrity and professional interviews with people in recovery and how successful treatment has brought remarkable changes in their lives. With your hosts, Andrew.
I got married for the third time, and the over-under between all my friends was 15 months.
And Judah.
Well, it sounds profound if it doesn't make sense.
I guess so.
That's what I've learned about profoundness.
Break free of those habits that are controlling you. Life is waiting. Come and get it. KLEAN Radio starts now.
Welcome to KLEAN Radio. I'm Judah. My co-host Andrew is not in town tonight. He's out of town. Welcome, people driving, listening on the radio. You could stream us at KLEANradio.com. You can watch me live, and you can watch our guests live, and you can watch all of us live. You can see what I'm wearing, and I can tell you it's nothing special. And I'd like to welcome everybody out there. It's Sunday night, and KLEAN Radio and the KLEAN Treatment Center is a drug rehabilitation center located in Los Angeles, and we treat people with alcoholism, addiction, and all the good stuff that people struggle with. Welcome. And the number here is 888-539-2980. That's 888-539-2980. 888-539-2980. And if you're listening and you're Sunday nights were probably one of the hardest times for me. It was after I was done watching all the football games, usually heavily intoxicated, lost a lot of my money on some game I didn't win, and I was hopeless. And I am no longer hopeless. And if you feel that, or if you know somebody that's feeling like that, well, it's going to be okay. Give us a call. If you don't feel comfortable talking about it, you could call us at our other lines and talk to people that we have waiting. And a lot of interesting stories in the news. I'm reading about Demi Lovato, and nobody's familiar with her. She is an 18-year-old Disney star whose new motto is "Sober is sexy." And while Demi's sexy, the question is sober sexy? And I think it's pretty amazing that we have an 18-year-old girl out there that's trying to help people out by saying sober is sexy. I know when I was 18 years old, I didn't think being sober was sexy. I thought it was the last thing in the world I wanted to do. So if you're driving around tonight, if you're listening to us, and there's anything you want to talk about, whether it's sobriety, whether it's you are sober and you don't know what to do, give us a call. Again, the number is 888-539-2980. That's 888-539-2980. That's 888-539-2980. I'm Judah. My co-host is out of town tonight, so I'm a little rocky and a little nervous. No, I seem cool. Thank you, Steve. I know you lie to me very well. And any of your topics about sobriety, life after sobriety, give us a call. And I'm going to introduce the guest right away tonight because I don't like to be alone in the studio talking to myself. And, we are live. Thank you very much. We are live. You could find us streaming. Go to KLEANradio.com. Go to Facebook. Like us on Facebook at KLEAN Radio. That's KLEAN with a K. And in the studio tonight is a nice, sober gentleman, an amazingly talented Hollywood writer. Can I mention it? He's such fair as Marmaduke, and an amazing movie that a lot of people haven't seen but you should go see is a movie called Smother. And he's a chap by the name of Tim Rasmussen. I'd like to thank him for coming in at the last minute, and welcome to the studio, Tim.
Thank you very much. We are live, but I'm on a 45-second delay, depending on what I might say. So.
That's so I might have dead air for about 45 seconds?
Just while I clean my act up and then say something nice, yes.
You write for Disney.
Yeah, that's true. Currently, I write for Disney. I'm very, very lucky to be writing for Disney right now, so yes. I will keep it Disney-fied.
Yes, so you could make fart jokes. But,
I think so, yeah.
That's about it.
Mm-hmm.
And we're a show about a lot of things, but one of the things we like to talk about here is life after you get sober, that there is a life after people get sober. And I think there is so much darkness out there. I know you're a big fan of Intervention, and, well, not a big fan, but I know you watch it. And a lot of these shows, they don't show the after, and there isn't a lot of hope sometimes.
Yeah, like I was just watching Intervention the other day, and it's like you always get to that last couple of seconds where they have the words over the black, and it's like, such and such has been in recovery since here, and then you're waiting for that next thing to come up as whether or not did they make it, did they
right.
not, did they, and then they make it, and you're just so relieved for them.
Yeah.
And you can usually tell by the music too. Well, sometimes because the music's kind of bittersweet at the end, so you never know which ways it's going to go. But yeah, it's just like there is a life out after being sober for sure.
And people do get sober for a whole myriad of different reasons. It wasn't in your case. You didn't lose a job. You didn't lose a house. What happened?
Well, I was actually fairly high, fairly high functioning, as they say. A lot of it is everyone goes through really difficult times in their life and stress drinking but it's interesting. It's like I'm 38 years old and you wake up one day and you realize, wow, I'm drinking way more than I should be, and then you have to take a hard look at yourself and say, am I one of those guys who can't handle it? And that's a long, tough, hard process, but ultimately when it came down to realizing that's who I am, then it actually became easier to some degree to say, okay, this really isn't adding anything to my life, and I can't be involved with this anymore. So,
well, one of my favorite things that I constantly hear, and it's one of my favorite excuses that I hear from people, is that I won't be creative. Like that when I drank and I did drugs, it helped my creativity.
Yeah, I think there's a comedian I follow on Twitter named Rob Delaney, and he got sober I think 7 or 8 years ago. He had a bad crash. He crashed into a DMV and broke both of his legs and punctured his lungs. And it's really funny how he talks about it. He's really open about all his mental health illness and everything like that. And he says it's basically kind of just a myth. He goes he feels like he's much more creative being sober than what he ever used to be. And I think that's really true. Unless you're just a genius. I think that geniuses, it's kind of a romanticized thing. We think of William Faulkner, right?
Right.
Faulkner was able to, write all these.
Hemingway.
These guys, right? They were just raging alcoholics, but they were geniuses to begin with. And I think anyone else trying to go that route, it's probably not going to work out for you.
And we have a call on line 2. We're going to go to Tony. He's been trying to get clean a couple times. Tony, welcome to KLEAN Radio. You're on the air with Judah and Tim. Tony, did I hit the button wrong? Oh, Tony left. Okay, call back, Tony. And the number here is, if you just tuned in, you're listening to KLEAN Radio. That's KLEAN with a K. The number is 888-539-2980. That's 888-539-2980. Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, I'm really sorry. I'm glad Tony called in, but then he interrupted me, and then but call back, Tony. It'll be okay.
Well, he's been trying to get clean a couple of times, so it might be maybe he's in a dark place, hard for you to use the phone.
It's interesting about like when you choose to kind of really get serious about it, because it's hard, because people go, well, how am I going to live the rest of my life without drinking or using?
Right.
And it's kind of this unfathomable thing, right? But I think your relationship to it really has to change, because I found for myself that now I look at it not as like, well, how am I going to not do without this? It's kind of like I see it as just a direct threat to my, my family life and all the things that I hold dear, and there's,
How do you think that shift happened?
Part of it was me doing a lot of hard work, so a lot of it was me. I think deep down, everyone who uses, I think they know it, they know what they're doing, and people just aren't ready. I was using this program called Rational Recovery, and it's big on personal responsibility. It basically says that every time you get high, you're putting the high in front of everything you hold near and dear, and the only way to really not do it anymore. If you have a problem with it, you just have to stop. And I think just most people refuse to do that.
Right.
And then everybody else kind of like, it's much easier for everyone else to say, oh, well, this person has a disease or something like that, as opposed to saying, well, gosh, they just must not really like me very much as a family member, or, it's debatable as to whether or not, what the disease portion of it is. That's one of the things.
And it's one of the things we constantly talk about, because there are so many different opinions, and in the end of the day, the most important thing is that a person gets help and gets sober.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you're listening tonight, that's the...
Yeah, I'm a big proponent of it's like I grew up with kind of a...
Tony's back.
Oh, good.
Welcome to KLEAN Radio, Tony. You're on the air with Judah and Tim.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Not good.
What's going on, Tony?
I'm smoking that crack shit, and it's got a hold of my life. It's horrible. It's going to kill me.
You got to speak up a little bit. I'm sorry. You're smoking crack?
Yeah, I said I'm on crack right now. It's just a matter of time that this drug is going to kill me, and I have a weakness. Every payday I go to this crap. Honestly, I don't like it. I don't want it. I see it's destroying my life. I see what it's disgusting. It's a low-life lifestyle. It's horrible. And I've checked myself into a rehab, and then they kicked me off because I was sleeping during a meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't give me a chance to recover. And then I put my hands up, and I said, I have my hands up in the air asking for help, and you're throwing me out to the street to the devil.
Right.
And So ever since then, I just kind of trimmed treatment meetings away.
Where do you live?
But I know that this drug,
Tony, whereabouts do you live?
I live in Glendale.
And have you been trying? When were you in rehab?
Oh man, 8 years ago.
And are you willing to try to get back into rehab?
I have a really good job. They were not giving me. I lose my job. I take time off. And a lot of these rehabs, you have to check yourself in for months.
Okay.
And
You know most
you,
jobs.
you know,
What
you
type
don't want
of
to get changed, I do.
what type of work do you do?
Construction.
Okay. So you have you been trying to get to meetings? Any 12-step type meetings or anything like that?
You know something? I'm going to tell you, those meetings don't do anything for me.
You have to speak up a little bit. Sorry, Tony.
Those meetings don't do anything for me. I don't know why. I don't get it. It doesn't. I hear the people's miseries, and I don't. It's hard to hear that. And I know it's part of the process, but I just don't want to hear your miseries.
You don't want to hear the what?
Their misery.
The misery.
Yeah.
Could it?
The stats and that.
You don't want to hear the steps, right?
I go through a shot of taking it would end.
Mm-hmm. And when was how often? Let's be honest. How often were you going to meetings when you would go?
I would go to meetings and then I just frustrated because they told me that meetings got a spot and they weren't there, so I just wouldn't go. But I went once like for 3 months in a row.
So you went to meetings for 3 months in a row.
Every other day.
Did you get a sponsor?
I couldn't get a sponsor for some reason. Nobody wanted a sponsor.
You didn't. So you didn't want a sponsor.
I didn't want a sponsor.
But you did.
I asked several individuals for.
And what did they say?
They said they couldn't because they had too many already, too many recipients already. And at that point, I just turned off. I don't take a step of rejection when I'm asking for help.
Right.
I'm not getting it. So
it's understandable. You went to meetings and you would ask people to sponsor you, and they would say no.
Mm-hmm.
Because they. Right. What type of meetings were you going to? Narcotics Anonymous or Alcoholics Anonymous?
Narcotics Anonymous.
You might want to try a few in your area, a few Alcoholics Anonymous meetings. That might help. That might be a little different. Are you able to get any time off from work?
No. Every day I only get about 1 hour, 2 hours. And I'm still alive.
Yeah, it is amazing. So, what are you going to do now about getting? What are you going to do now about getting help? So you have a problem. You're addicted to crack. It's not working anymore. You've tried Narcotics Anonymous meetings. You were in rehab. What are you willing to do right now? You have to speak up.
I thought you had a great suggestion. I heard you on the radio. I thought, well, okay, let me call it.
No, Tony. I'm extremely happy you have, and we are actually a treatment center in LA. I'm not telling you to come. I'm just saying who we are, and we do deal with people on a constant basis that are dealing with crack addiction, alcohol addiction, all forms of addiction that haven't always had an easy time in other places. Now, I'm not saying I'm not trying to sell the KLEAN Treatment Center, but what I am saying to you is that there is hope.
Listen.
Yes.
If I could buy the KLEAN treatment, I would. If it would work for me, I would want it bad.
Okay.
People don't think I was not, but I do.
I'm going to tell you what, Tony. When we're done with the call, I'm going to put you on hold, and one of our producers in the other room is going to take down your information. And if you're really serious about getting clean, we'll go to battle with you. But that's if you're serious about getting clean.
Yeah, I am. Please.
And it's going to be okay. I mean, you're in the studio tonight. The guest tonight is a good chap by the name of Tim, who's gone through the same. We've all gone through the same struggles.
Mm-hmm, for sure, and it's really difficult. I mean, just by picking up the phone, Tony, and calling in, that's an amazing thing to do. You obviously had the courage to do that. So don't not follow through.
Yeah.
I don't want to die.
Okay, so if you make me Tony, I'll make you a promise. We'll do whatever we can to help you if you make me the promise that when you get off a hold, when I put you on hold, you speak to the people in the studio, you give them your number, and we'll get in touch with you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
You promise that?
Of course.
Okay, great, Tony. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Tony.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, that's great for him to call up and do that.
Yeah. That's like the hardest thing in the world. I think, we've spoken about this. People have this misunderstanding when one of the steps is admitting you're powerless.
Yeah.
And people often don't realize by admitting you're powerless, you actually are regaining power.
It's something I find with going to therapy. People
Right.
look at you a little different, like, oh, why are you going to therapy? There must be something wrong with you. And I'm actually like, well, no, there's actually something right with me because I'm looking in the mirror
Right.
hard enough to go and do something about it.
I'm saying something's not working.
Yeah, I'm saying something that's working, and
Right.
I think, and I need help with that, And so for Tony to do that, or for anyone to call in, I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah, and you're listening to KLEAN Radio. That's KLEAN with a K. You could find us on Facebook at KLEAN Radio, and you could watch us live at KLEANradio.com. The number here is 888-539-2980. That's 888-539-2980. That's 888-539-2980. And it's pretty amazing, the last caller, Tony, talking about being addicted, because that's the hardest thing in the world to do, is to call up a radio station and say, I have a problem. And I know there's so many people out there that are listening right now that have tuned in or have been listening that are going through a struggle in their life.
Yeah, and how many times have you I'm gonna call, but then you hang up? Who knows? We lost
Right.
Tony for a second there. Did he?
Right.
Did he call in? Did he hang up? Did he call back? It's like you go through all that stuff, and nobody wants to sit there and say I have this issue. It's really painful.
Yeah.
And it's usually not just in an isolated thing. It's usually the history of your whole life, all intertwined with all of your self esteem issues and your shame and whatever it happens to be. It's all wrapped up into that. And so then you're opening that entire that entire thing, and who wants to do that? Who wants to do the work to do that? Because it's hard. So, but to do that one thing.
I mean, that's the hardest thing to do.
Yeah.
The hardest thing to do is to call and say, I need help.
Yeah, for sure.
So if you're listening tonight and you're going through whatever struggle it is, I mean, we're in a time right now in America or in the world where people are struggling.
Yeah.
And everybody's struggling. And there are more people struggling than not.
Yeah.
And it's okay to come out and say, I'm struggling.
Yeah.
And, I was I was watching tonight. I was at the treatment center before this, and we had this barbecue, and there was like 35 people there, and there were a few of our residents that had graduated. And it's amazing to see. It's like, one of the things you do get to see when people get sober, it's almost like watching a baby grow up. It's almost like seeing somebody that was close to death, get back a life. And that's one of the cool things about sort of sobriety and getting to watch certain things is you get to see the glow.
Yeah. It's really, I went to an exercise camp several months ago because
Please talk about that.
Well, I'm a little porcine, a little overweight, and I've worked with had these issues for a long time, and so I went to this exercise camp, and for 2 weeks, and it was kind of like based on the Biggest Loser program type thing.
So you went to fat camp?
Yeah, it was a fat camp basically. Yeah. And so I was there, and it's like you're exercising 6 hours a day. It's a 1,200 calorie diet, but I'm a guy who never liked to get up early and didn't like structure and all this stuff. So it's all structured. It's all it's like, oh man, I don't but I went. I faced it and I went. That's the second hardest thing, is to go to fat camp. First one is to call in. Second one's fat camp. But I noticed that I really started to like the structure of that. And it was surprising to me because it's like not only could I do it, I liked the structure, and because you couldn't drink there, they actually didn't have any caffeine or anything drinking. When my wife came to visit on the first Saturday, we had like this amazing day with my wife and my kid because it's like I was present in my life, I was engaged, I'd lost 10 pounds by that point. It's just it's like when you're not sober and when you're addicted, you're basically the shell of who you were and like who everyone loves. It's like how many people do you have in your life who really love you, and it's like, and you always think, well, I'm alone and I got to do this alone and stuff. It's like there's so many people out there who who genuinely love you, but they don't love the that husk of you. That's a harder thing to to get through. So it's like I feel like I've peeled off some of that husk, and
you look great.
Oh, thanks. I'm wearing.
And I say that in most heterosexual type of ways. And if you just tuned in, you're listening to KLEAN Radio on KFWB News Talk 980. That's KLEAN Radio on KFWB News Talk 980. The number here is 888-539-2980. 888-539-2980. What made you want to go to fat camp?
Well, I'm a lifelong diabetic. Even though it is radio, I did wear a girdle for the occasion, so I just
really,
it makes me feel better. I know I don't
tonight.
Tonight I'm wearing one right now.
Right,
and
People can see you. They could stream us live.
Oh, great.
So maybe that's the hook of the show. You'll show your girdle.
I didn't want people to take up extra bandwidth streaming, so I wore the girdle to make it look like it was less.
Right.
No, it's been kind of this. I went back to therapy a year ago. I had a lot of personal family issues. My parents divorced after 37 years of marriage, and then they each, while they were separated, had strokes 8 weeks apart from each other. And I, as the oldest child, it was just really left to me to kind of clean up their lives,
Right.
and it was really stressful. And I did not take care of myself during the last several years. And it just came to a point, it's like, okay, you know what? I'm going to take care of myself now. I have to, because if I don't, then I'm going to die.
And there's not going to be nobody to take care of anybody else.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think people forget that sometimes. We're in the studio tonight, by the way, with Tim Rasmussen, amazing writer of Such Fare as Marmaduke. Smother, and the original script for Meet the
Yeah, we did some work on Meet the Fockers these many years ago. Yes.
So you're a very funny man, and
thank you.
It was a great script. It was a great movie.
That was a great experience. That was our very first job ever. Knowing what I know about the business now, there's no way we should have had that job.
Oh wow!
It was great though. Jay Roach, the director of that, he brought us aboard, and just through his faith, it was a great experience. So that helped get us our start for sure.
And so you brought up something very interesting about taking care of yourself, and I think a lot of people don't realize that. You've seen X-Men, and it's Wolverine, like he could help you, but every time he helps you, it's like he gets weaker. And most people don't realize if you're not taking care of yourself and you're constantly being of help to others, whether it's your family, whether it's your wife, your kids, your brothers, you're weak. And if you're not healthy, you could be dying yourself.
Yeah, I mean, self-care was not something that we really had in our family growing up. We grew up in kind of this very Pentecostal kind of, somewhat repressed environment, which was always like, take care of everybody else but yourself.
Right.
And it's like my parents didn't really take care of themselves, and like those things tend to get passed down. And it's not blaming my parents. They did the best that they could, just as I'm doing the best that I can. But, to realize that as an adult and kind of unpeel those layers, it's hard and it's painful, because it's like you realize, well, I haven't really taken care of myself. And now other areas of my life are suffering, and why would I want to put anyone through that? It's like with the oxygen thing, right? On a plane, if you have a kid and the oxygen mask come down, you got to put it on yourself before you put it on, your kids on, let them suffocate a little bit before, you got to get your stuff together. So, I mean, that's a hard thing to come to too. It seems so easy, right? But like you could just do it, but it's not. It takes time,
And we're going to take a caller. He's he's coming out from our old station that we were on, and he's addicted to the radio. And I constantly, every time I'm listening to different radio stations, I hear him calling. So, Sonny, hello. Sonny, how you doing?
Well. I hope you like your new home, do you, Judah?
We like our new home, Sonny. You're in the studio tonight with with Tim.
How's it going? Sonny?
Well, thanks. Well, how's it going to you too, sir?
Good. To all our new listeners, Sonny is 15 years old. He lives in Rancho Cucamonga. And, right? Am I correct, Sonny?
That is correct, actually.
He's never had a drink or a drug in his life, but he always has good questions about them.
Yes. This is really funny, too, Judah, because last time I talked to you by yourself, and now I'm talking to you by yourself on the new station.
It's kismet, Sonny. We have this synchronicity, you and I. And what is your questions tonight, Sonny?
All right. I got a couple for you, actually.
Have you seen Marmaduke?
What was that?
Have you seen the movie Marmaduke?
No.
Because we're in the studio tonight with the writer Tim Rasmussen.
Yeah, it's okay. If Sonny's 15, is more for like half your age, so it's okay.
Sonny, what are your questions tonight?
All right. Well, I sing KLEAN Radio, talk radio, by the way. But now, my first question to you, Judah, is that what's the percent of alcohol that I'm reading here in this article? I'm sure you've read it actually now. That it's telling me right here. I'm wondering if you can kind of break this down. That alcohol for children is about 85% now. Children want to go to liquor stores and get alcohol and literally steal from liquor stores. And about 85% that's true. And, why does that happen? I'm wondering if you can break that down for me.
What is the exact question? Why are children wanting to go get alcohol?
Yes.
That is a good question. And the answer is probably most of the time it's peer pressure. Their friends are doing it. You want to feel in the in crowd. And, it's something that's exotic. It's something that's forbidden. I mean, Tim, do you have a better answer?
Yeah, you're told no, don't do this. But until a certain age, and then it's okay to do this. So there's this weird disconnect because it's like, oh, well, apparently I can do it then, but not now. So I think it's really attractive that way.
Judah, do you think it has something to do because they see their parents drinking it?
I think whether it's movies romanticizing it, whether it's TV romanticizing it. Sonny, it's actually a great question. Is why do people in the first place? Why do they drink? What is the reason that I decided to drink? Tim? Why did you drink? What was going on? What was I know your first drink wasn't when you were 30, but.
No, it was almost. I didn't have a drink till I was 21. I grew up a preacher's kid, and I just didn't do it. And I really had no desire to. And then, my 20s rebelled a little bit and just drank like normal, quote unquote, normal college guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like it never. And then when I started drinking really heavily, it was mostly because you're just kind of going through the fire, and then it's kind of like you're. But yeah, but as a kid though, I didn't really have a desire to drink because I was told no, but I was too scared. I was too much of a wuss to go disobey my parents.
His nickname actually was Tim the Wuss Rasmussen.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Sonny, great questions.
And
yes.
Before I let you go, last question.
Yes.
And I promise I'll take it off the air. Is that how can I tell if somebody has been smoking pot?
But they're very slow. And I don't know. That's a good question. Their eyes are red. They're sleeping a lot. They're very slow. When you smoke pot, it really slows you down. Tim, I know you have I won't bring that story up.
Yeah, oftentimes they smell like patchouli. My
experience. They have an aroma around them that could be very unpleasant. It
can be like skunky. Yeah.
Sonny, thank you very much because we're about to go to a break, and call us back next week. You're actually great tonight, Sonny.
Thank you very much, Judah, and tell Andrew I said hi.
I will when I see him.
Thanks.
And Tim, we actually have a segment on this show that we're going to do after the break, but it's a fun segment that we're starting. It's 12 Reasons to Stop Drinking. So before we go to the break, I want you to start thinking about 12 reasons. You get it because of the 12. It's the synchronicity with the 12 steps. Okay. And it's going to be the 12 reasons why people decide to stop drinking. They don't have to be serious. Some could be serious like Tony. And you are listening to You're listening to Clean Radio on KFWB. You could find us on cleanradio.com, and you could also live stream us on cleanradio.com, or you could listen to us right here on KFWB 980. The number is 888-539-2980. That's 888-539-2980. You are listening to KFWB News Talk 980. I'm Judah. We'll be right back.
Do you suspect a loved one is abusing drugs? Call Clean Treatment Center at 888-601-6040 for a free drug test and consultation. A treatment advisor is available to help you administer the test and answer any questions you may have regarding treatment and more. We are here to help. Call us today at 888-601-6040 or find us online at cleantreatmentcenter.com for your free drug test and the start of a promising future.
Welcome back to Clean Radio. If you or someone you know is in need of addiction assistance, call 800-KFWB-980. That's 800-539-2980. Or go to cleanradio.com. Now, back to Andrew and Judah.
It's just Judah tonight, and you're listening to Clean Radio on KFWB News Talk 980. The number here is 888-539-2980. That's 888-539-2980. We are live. You're listening to Clean Radio. You could find us on Facebook, or you could go to cleanradio.com and live stream us. We're in the studio tonight with the amazing and talented writer from such movies like Meet the Fockers, Marmaduke, and Smother, and an upcoming Disney movie, Tim the Weeper Rasmussen. And
I do cry a lot.
Thank you very much for coming. You do cry a lot.
I do. My sister says I cry more than she does.
That's why I called you the Weeper, because I am actually dating your sister.
Yeah. That's another show.
That is a whole other show, a whole other fellowship. And thank you again for coming in. I got the cameraman Patrick to laugh. Your sister is actually an amazing photographer. So let's but you actually have a really amazing story. You're son of a preacher man, and you grew up, listening to your dad preach, and I'm sure that had many of influences in your life.
What's interesting about that is that, you look back on, we grew up, I would say, fairly, strange, but you would say, well, if I could do it all over again, I wouldn't necessarily do that. But then I think like the unique way that we grew up sort of gave me a different kind of outlook, and like I'm in this, great industry, and I get to write for the movies, and, I have this great life. And so it's like, well, if I would have done it differently then, I wouldn't necessarily be doing this now. So I can't, so, it's like,
because it gave you a whole other perspective that a lot of people don't have.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's important to remember. It's like when you're dealing with stuff, it's like, you think about all the bad things that you have to go through in your own life in order to try and get sober. It's like, actually, a lot of those quote unquote bad things end up being kind of good things. There are silver linings to it, because if those bad things led you to a place to actually get clean, then that ended up ultimately being good. And I think you can look at it that way. But
I think that's the only way you can look at it.
Yeah.
I think, in life, it's like, and I always say this to people, and you and I have had many discussions about God. And a friend of mine was in the car one time, and he goes, "What's your thing on God? What's your definition of God?" And I said, "I don't regret the past. If I'm upset about all the bad stuff that's happened in the past, then I'm denying my present. I'm denying all the things that I'm being mean to you."
Yeah.
Because if everything would have worked out the way it was meant to be, I wouldn't be in the studio with you right now.
Yeah.
And my whole thing was everything happens for a reason. I don't know if it's preordained. I don't know any of that stuff. I just know everything, there's rhythm.
Yeah. I mean, there is a certain rhythm. I mean, I don't necessarily agree that everything happens for a reason, and I don't want to undermine your.
No, you could undermine me.
Okay, good.
You could undermine me.
Okay, so anyway, I think luck plays a lot more in people's lives than they care to admit, and I think that's so. I don't know if it happens for a reason. I do think there's unintended consequences. You and I, how many cosmic tumblers had to click for you and I to end up on the radio tonight together?
Right. A lot.
A lot.
A lot of. I like how you put in tumblers there.
Yeah.
Get it back to alcohol.
Yeah, and it's like exactly. It's just like it's so. I don't know if it happens for a reason, but I do know that I don't. But I don't begrudge that. I don't look down on that because maybe it does. Who knows? Who knows how many multiverses are out there instead of this one universe, right? And we're just in the ant farm. So.
And you are listening to KLEAN Radio. If you're driving, you're listening to us live via the internet. That fascinating thing. You could give us a call at 888-539-2980. We have a couple of great callers already tonight. And if you're driving, we had Tony that was on that was talking about, that he can't stop smoking crack. And that's obviously one of the 12 good reasons to quit, drinking is that you're smoking a hell of a lot of crack and you can't quit. So with that, we are going to go to our... Oh, yeah.
And now it's time for the top 12 reasons to get clean.
It's so 70s game shows. I have to thank Rand and Jamie for putting this thing together. It's really amazing. It's so give me a number one reason.
Well, number one, you get to be on the radio with Judah Friedman.
Yes,
which is great. So
who's better than you? You got to be on with the Judah.
Yeah, that's right. I get on
watch the Judah dance.
Mm-hmm.
So that's reason number one. Wow,
that's reason number one.
I have one right here, written by Jamie B. You wake up in a dumpster. That would be a good reason to get clean.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. A good reason to get clean is to not throw up every morning.
That's good. That's a little serious, but good. Mm-hmm. You guys counting in there? I hope you guys are counting in there. Okay. You went to college, but you don't remember.
Does anyone really remember college, though?
That's a good point. So we'll take that off the list. Okay, you need plastic sheets. I like that one. Yeah. Okay, your family won't talk to you. Get back to a little more serious. You've covered your windows in aluminum foil. That's for Tony, who's smoking crack. Mm-hmm. And that's pretty fascinating. We don't have to list all 12 of them right now, but if you're driving and it's like if you're married to somebody that's been abusing drugs, it's pretty amazing what drug addicts will do to cover up their stuff. I mean, I don't know if you've ever had to hide alcohol, but
no, I never had to hide anything. Although it's when you can carry it pretty well, it's much easier to kind of quote unquote hide in plain sight. Because your loved ones, especially if they love you and trust you, are not like the Gestapo trying to look after you every second of every day.
Right.
There would be times where my wife would be like, she would kind of do a double take, like, wow, I can't believe how blotto you are right now, because it just didn't look like, it's like I've been drinking all afternoon, right? And but So like you can't get high, but I didn't do anything like that bad. But it's really easy to do that though, because you feel like you kind of want to hide things, because like you just don't want to.
Right.
You don't want to look like you're that out of control, right?
But I think it's very interesting because what you're talking about, because there are a whole slew of different types of alcoholics. We constantly look at whether it's the Skid Row guy, whether it's the guy that's stealing money from, or the woman that's stealing money every day, or they're the people that just work regular jobs that drink too much, and that their innards are out of control. It's not just everything else is out of control. It could just be your personal.
And you think to yourself, well, okay, I'm not drinking that. I'm not that guy. I'm not the DUI guy, or I'm not crashing into buildings. I'm not doing this. And you think, but then you wonder, it's like, well, okay, am I going to get to be that guy at some point? And that's hard to know, because it's like, are you just overdoing it? Like I have a lot of friends who are drinkers, and it's like I've talked to them, and sometimes they do it too much. And it's like, is that problem drinking? Do they really have an issue?
Well, if you have to ask, that's my rule in life. If you have to, it's like, do I look fat?
Right.
Well, if you had to ask, you probably do.
Yeah. Yeah,
did I tip too much? Did I? Well,
you've never been accused of that.
No, I've never been accused of that. That not because I'm Jewish, because I'm poor.
Right.
And one of my favorite things, though, because years ago this happened to a friend. He goes, "Did I tip enough?" And I said, "If you have to ask, probably not."
Yeah, probably not. Yeah.
And it's like anything you have to ask. If you're asking yourself right now, "Do I have an alcohol problem?" The odds are probably yes.
Well, it's funny because when I first met you, I'd like the first 4 months of the year, I didn't drink anything, and I came, and then like over the summer, started to drink a little bit, and so I was trying to kind of rationalize a little bit to you, and I knew that you'd been clean for a long time when I first met you, and then I got done talking about it, and I said, look, I'll know if I'm going to be able to handle it or not, and you said, yeah, you'll know, and to my own credit, I said, look, I can't handle it, but you did say something, you kind of smiled, and you said, well, but for somebody who's says they're not an alcoholic, you do talk about it and think about it quite a bit, and that stuck with me. That made me laugh, but there was a real truth to that, because it's like, one of the things that I read in this recovery thing that I'm working on is the guy talks about how
you just bring it up. It's called rational recovery, and if there are people out there that are listening, I encourage you. Whatever way to get help, please try to get help. Whether it's through the 12-step groups, whether it's through something like you're trying with rational recovery, anything that could get you better.
Yeah, for sure. Rational recovery really spoke to me because it was about personal responsibility. It's like, and it's saying, you have the power to do whatever you want to do, and I like that because then I get the reward for making my my life better. And I have to say that in the time that I've done this, my life is better across the board, and I feel really good about that. Other people, it may not work for them, or it may be alienating to them, and it's like you say, there's room under the tent for everyone.
And that's all that matters. It's like, as long as you're willing to listen, who cares?
Yeah, exactly. But they talk a lot in there about how if you're reading this right now, you have an alcohol problem. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's like you can't drink moderately. Drinking moderately is a myth, like that basically boozers do, talk about, because
and for the alcoholic, it's hell.
Yeah,
there's no worse hell for an alcoholic than to try to. There was a great program called Moderation Management, and I say great and very facetiously, and in air quotes. But that was the whole thing, drinking moderately.
Yeah.
But if you're an alcoholic, it sort of defies. It's like, just take a couple hits off the rock.
Yeah. Yeah, and people like my wife, for example, she doesn't drink a lot, but she's like, she doesn't understand it because she doesn't have that addictive voice or that part of her personality that, it's like, so it's hard for her to kind of understand that because, she never thinks about it.
Right.
It's like, it's only the people who think about it too much who.
Right. It's like I said to somebody one time, I said, it's like if you went to my dad and you said, hey, Phil, when was the last time you had a drink? He wouldn't remember.
Yeah.
Not because he drank too much and he wouldn't remember. It's not an issue.
Yeah. Yeah. But, what's interesting, the thing that I've done, and, I know like AA would say that like, AA has some issues with like, going abstinent. I've gone completely abstinent, but what I found, because what this program says basically, it's not a recovery. You basically have this event, and you make sort of promises to your loved ones and to yourself. And once you have this event, you're free to live your life. I'm an ex-drinker. You say like, I don't necessarily have a disease. I'm an ex-drinker, and you can go live your life. And I found that very, very liberating for myself.
Right. And this is where you and I go our separate ways. But in the end of the day, we meet in the middle because we both wanted the same thing, which is to be sober.
Because once you are sober, then you don't have to live with that anymore, and like you're so much more engaged in your life, and that can work with either either method or any other methods out
Right.
there, whatever you can do, right?
You're listening live to KLEAN Radio. The number here is 888-539-2980. That's 888-539-2980. 888-539-2980. Give us a call. We're in the studio tonight with an extremely talented and thoughtful writer, Tim the Weeper Rasmussen. And thank you for coming in
You're welcome.
and talking about this wonderful life of sobriety.
Mm-hmm. It is. What was her name on Disney? She said that sobriety is sexy.
Yeah, Demi Lovato.
Yeah,
and I can't believe I know who that is.
I know.
And I didn't know it till I Googled her.
She apparently hasn't seen me shirtless. So
That's with your girdle on.
that's my own hashtag on Twitter.
With your girdle on.
With
And
my girdle on, yeah.
I think it's really amazing because you decided to check yourself into fat camp.
Yeah.
And
That was hard. You know what was great about that, though? Is like all the people there was like about 50 people going through it, and people of, I'm like 50, 60 pounds overweight. I'm not, 100 or 200. And there was those people there in all walks of life, but you're working so hard physically, and you're so stripped down emotionally that it was such a safe place that everyone was kind of doing that. And that was really cool because I've never been really a joiner, but to talk to other people, that was really helpful.
have you kept in touch with any of them?
Yeah, we have a Facebook page for the people who were there the 1 week. It's like a weekly camp, so some people come and some people go, and then but yeah, I've kept in touch, and it's been helpful because people are like, oh, I'm off the wagon food wise, I'm this and this and this, and so it's like, okay, well, keep it up. You're not perfect, but you can do this, and so that helps for sure.
And it's such a huge issue right now in America, which is obesity.
Yeah,
I'm sure you know the numbers probably a lot better than I do because I'm sure in the camp they.
Yeah, I see them on every doctor's visit. I know. So yeah, I mean, I know like I believe it's something like 60% of Americans are clinically obese, and then there's the next stratosphere, which is like morbidly obese, and it's just it's appalling. It's really appalling, and I and it definitely has ramifications for people. It's as equally insidious as alcohol in many ways, or drugs.
How did the alcohol affect your writing?
I didn't drink when I wrote, like I would always be very good about, separating those two. The times that I most drank would be like at nights or on the weekends and stuff like that. It was never like getting up at 8 a.m. and, oh man, I got to have this to be able to write. But what I found is that when I was going through all the really stressful periods of my life, it's like if I drank really heavily on a Sunday, right, which I'm not writing on that day, it's like waking up Monday, it just takes me so long to get going, and then you're writing in the afternoon and you just feel, muddle-headed, and it was just, it was just not good for my own physical health or my mental health or productivity.
So you're basically you're a weekend warrior.
Yeah, but
a weekend holiday warrior.
Right. And the thing with writing is sometimes you're not on a project, it's like, you have long periods of, it's like you work on something for, 7 or 8 months, and you might have 2 or 3 months off, while you're getting your next thing, or, and sometimes they overlap, but sometimes they don't. And so then for that 2 or 3 months, it's almost like you're on vacation. So now you find out that like, oh, well, it's Wednesday night, and I've, been drinking since 5 p.m, and it's midnight, and like, it's like, what am I doing? It's like, it's during the middle of the week. So it's just, and that becomes a more, continuous habit, and it's just like, okay, well, it's not cool to be drunk on a Wednesday night. And
what's the contentness that you have now?
The contentness I have now is knowing I don't have to be hungover. I don't like, I have a really great life. I always did. Like my wife was always very supportive, but it's like I have a 7-year-old son and I have my wife, and
you have a man-child.
I have a man-child. Yeah, he is a man-child.
Yeah,
he is. But it's just like, why would I want to jeopardize any of those things? Like I work in this great industry. Like I'm really lucky to be working, in Hollywood. It's
right.
like, so many people try to get in, and we worked really hard, and it's like, why would I want to even come close to, squandering that? That's it. So, but you think, well, aren't those just natural responses to have initially? But, a lot of it, I've always thought that addiction is not, whether it's alcohol or sex or drugs or food or whatever it is, those are just the symptoms of stuff that you haven't dealt with.
Right.
And so it's actually...
Alcohol is but a symptom.
Yeah. And so it actually took me dealing with a lot of stuff growing up, and over the last couple of years to really get to that. But I was willing to face it. I think that's the difference.
Okay, and I know I'm going to mess up this next name. I believe we have a caller named Janine. No, we do have a caller named Janine. Welcome to the air, Janine.
Thank you.
I'm Judah. You're in the studio tonight with Tim Rasmussen.
Hi, Janine.
Hi.
Did I pronounce your name correctly?
Yes.
Okay, so your brother is abusing drugs and doesn't think he has a problem?
Yes.
And what types of drugs is he abusing?
Definitely alcohol, and I'm taking marijuana.
And where is he located?
He lives in Manhattan Beach, California.
Okay, so your brother is abusing alcohol, maybe marijuana, and does he want to get help, or do you...
He doesn't. I want you to help me help him because he doesn't believe he has a problem.
We could definitely do that. What does your brother do?
You know, he does not have a job right now because he's lost every job he's had.
Mm-hmm. So your brother's lost every job he's had. How old is he?
He is 30 years old.
And is he living at home, or?
He is living with me.
He's living with you, and he doesn't think he has a problem. How long has he been drinking for?
I'm thinking since he was about 25.
So for the past 5 years, and probably marijuana, he's been doing that since probably his teenage years? And has he tried to get help at all?
He doesn't believe he has a problem.
Okay.
All he tells me is he smokes cigarettes, but I could smell something worse than cigarettes, and I see him in and out, zoned out, not knowing what's going on, and he never has any money. He stops going to school. He loses jobs. Very irresponsible. He is not compassionate at all. He is full of anger.
Okay, so you have a 30-year-old brother that is in denial, basically, about his problems, but the problem is you're also helping out the situation by taking care of him.
The problem is he doesn't have anybody else.
Right, and that's a good situation to be in. You know, I know that you're probably looking at the situation you're in right now saying it because it does stink, but you do hold a little control over it. Because if you're saying that your brother has nowhere else to go, you could basically have the opportunity to say to him, either you go get help and you could still live with me, or you're out.
The problem is he does not have any income at this point, and I do not know of any drug centers that are free.
Right. But we have 12-step groups. You know, are you familiar with Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous?
Yes.
Those are all free. You know, like our guest tonight into the studio, Rational Recovery. There's so many Rational Recovery. There are tons of 12-step groups across the United States, and everything is free. But the first thing you have to do is help yourself. So are you familiar with what Al-Anon is?
No.
Okay, Al-Anon is a program that was started by the founder of Alcoholics Anonymous wife, and it's for family members that are going through exactly what you're going through.
Okay.
And the first thing you have to do is, like our guest Tim was talking about, that he had to take care of himself before his family could get it, you know, before he could take care of anybody else. You have to get healthy.
And Janine, it's really hard because I have people in my life who are, you know, it's like I have people in my life who have alcohol problems and drug problems, and they're also angry, you know, and they, you know, maybe deep down they think they have a problem, they're not doing anything about it. And those people that have, you know, it's like at some point you have to, it will rob you of everything that you hold dear in life. It's like you obviously love your brother because you're taking care of him, but you will ruin your life by basically, you know, picking up after him, you know, and you got to find...
And, you know, I have kicked him out before out
Right.
of my house, and he became homeless.
Mm-hmm.
And he called me one time in the middle of the night and pretty much crying, sobbing out, how could you leave your mother's child to be on the street? I can't believe I'm outside. I sleep outside. I don't have a place to live. And that's really how I let him come back. And he cleaned up for a little bit. And as soon as I helped him get a job, he went back to the same thing.
Right. And I'm going to give you two suggestions tonight, Janine, that I hope you could take, okay? One of them is to call Al-Anon. They have an 800 number, and after we get off the phone, Jamie, our amazing producer with Rand in there, will give you the number for the Al-Anon, okay? And that'll help you. And I really encourage you to give them a call and they're going to help you with this. And the second thing is there is hope. And I'm being honest with you, I was your brother, okay? I was that kid living in my parents' house until one day my parents said, finally, that's it. And it was when they said that's it that I finally was able to get help for myself. And I think a lot of us have this fear of you know, I'm sure you have a fear with your brother, is that, oh, what if I kick him out? Well, what then?
Yeah.
Right? He might die. But he also might die by living in your house.
And I'm worried about that, too.
Right. So there are a lot of places out there that do deal with people like your brother that are free. You know, there are a lot of rehabs, you know, that you know, in the desert that specifically deal with people like your brother. So there is hope. But the first person you have to go and help is yourself. And I really, truly, Janine, encourage you to call the number of Al-Anon so you could get help for yourself.
Thank you very much.
Will you promise me you're going to do that and you'll stay on hold and Jamie will give you the number?
I have a pen and a piece of paper ready to write down the number.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. And please call back. We're on the air every Sunday night from 8 to 9. And we'll give you the number of our treatment center, too, and you can call up and ask any questions you might have.
Thank you so much for taking my call.
Thank you. Have a great night. And you're listening live to KLEAN Radio. It's Janine from Manhattan Beach, and that's amazing. I mean...
Yeah, it's, you know, we talk a lot about people who are addicted calling in, but think how many different family members that addiction affects,
Right.
and how many people are out there going, man, I wish I should call in because I have a brother or a
Right.
sister or somebody who's doing that. and that's in some ways even more difficult because you're actually clean, but then you feel like you're caught in this rock and a hard place with your family. You know, it's like you say, you don't want them to die, but they're just, you know, they're killing themselves right under your nose, and it's really, really painful.
You know, I was confronted with this years ago. I was outside of a 12-step meeting, and I saw somebody drunk. And he was about to get into the car, and I was debating. You know, there's this debate: do we call the police and make sure this guy? And I was like, you know what? I'm calling the cops. I don't care if that sounds like I'm a rat. I don't want this guy killing somebody else, or killing himself.
Yeah.
And those are the hard decisions that sometimes we don't want to make in life. There are so many people that are, like you said, that are listening right now, that their husbands might be on gambling runs, that their husbands might or their wives might be sitting at home stealing drugs.
Yeah.
And it's terrifying.
And you know, and it's like, and it puts them in a bad position. Think of, you know, Janine's like when her brother is on the phone saying, I can't believe you let your mother's child be on the street. It's like, well, you know, it's like the reality is I can't believe you are doing this. You are guilting me into letting you back in here when you're using.
But that's the right answer, and that's why we suggest going to support groups for that, so she could listen to so people that have gone through the same thing can say to her, that's not really the case.
Right.
And because where else is she going to be able to hear that?
Yeah, and it's really hard for family members to be critical of other family members. Like you don't want to say that your brother has this problem, you know. And so it was very brave of her to call up and, you know, to admit that, because a lot of people look the other way for sure in families. It's really easy to look the other way and just kind of let it slide and go on and you know.
Right. And you're a writer. It's funny, and I'm, you know, I try to be, but it was one of the things I was talking about last week. So many writers have gotten sober. So many writers in all different forms, and there's never been a show on TV about addiction, a scripted show. And it's sort of fascinating. You know, we have Intervention, we have all these other shows, but not one scripted show about a rehab. And I constantly say it's because who wants to see that in their home every week?
Right.
You don't want to see reality.
Yeah, for sure. It'll close in Kansas City, right, on Saturday night. So it's hard, because, you know, people are dealing with it so often, they want an escape from that.
And you're listening to KLEAN Radio. We do stream live. You could find all our old episodes. We have amazing guests at KLEANradio.com. And if you're going through any sort of issue, our numbers are there at KLEANradio.com. Just give our KLEAN Radio, KLEANtreatmentcenter.com. Just give us a call. We're not here to just, you know, we're here to answer any questions you might have. And I think one of the cool things is about KLEAN Treatment Center is that, you know, we can honestly say if we can't help, there are other places. And which is pretty cool.
Sure.
And how many reasons do we have? Could somebody give me a number? How many reasons do we have? Has anybody been counting of reasons? We have 6. So I think number 7 should definitely be your brother is living in your house.
Yeah.
If you're the brother, you're living in your sister's house, threatening her that if she doesn't take you in, you're going to die. And that's definitely reason number 7. You woke up in your bathtub with a... Okay, maybe we'll skip that one. Here's one that I find really funny. You sexted your dad. And if you sexted your dad, you might have a drinking problem.
Yeah.
And on a personal level, I used to call my sister up every night. I used to drunk dial her. And like after a week, she finally said, do you know you've called me 7 nights in a row? And I was like, really? Like,
if you sexted your dad, you have a drinking problem. And then if your dad sexted you back, he's got a drinking problem.
Or something else.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Any more you have? Here's a good one. You think the government has microchipped you without you knowing. But that for some people could be, other than addiction, that's quite a few people. No, that's a good one. I like that, yes.
My dog thinks that, but he actually does have a microchip in him, so...
Here's a good one, by the way, and I skipped the first one. Everyone thinks you have a problem except you.
Yeah. It's real easy in retrospect.
Yes. And any others?
I don't know.
Don't worry about it. We'll think of something. I want to, and if anybody out there, like I said, we have on our Facebook page, you could do this, and we're actually starting this thing. Whoever comes up with the best reason wins something we haven't figured out yet. And so closing out the show, I'd really like to thank you, Tim, for coming in.
Anytime, thank you. This makes sober feel sexy. Thank you.
Yeah, sober is. And damn, you're looking fine.
Oh man,
I haven't never seen you this dressed up.
Yeah, I know, because you come over to my house and I'm always like in sweatpants and stuff, and because I'm working a lot around the house. And I trimmed my beard for you, Judah.
Thank you.
I saved the shavings too, so I'll give those to you after the show.
That's very.
They're in an envelope.
That's a very sick thought, and I know that you and your sister are definitely related. And you're listening to KLEAN Radio, and anybody, you're listening to KLEAN Radio live. You could find us, like I said, at KLEANradio.com. And anybody that's going through any sort of issue, it's Sunday night, it's almost 9 o'clock. This is one of the hardest times for anybody that's struggling with alcoholism, with addiction. It's Sunday night, almost 9 o'clock. You got to face Monday. And anybody out there that's going through a rough time, it's going to be okay. And that's all I wanted to hear when I was out there drinking and using, and drinking, was that I wanted to know that it was going to be okay. So if anybody out there, if your son, your daughter, you is struggling with something, it's going to get better, but you got to do the one thing that's the most important, is get out there and try to get help. You could call us at KLEAN. You could call programs like Al-Anon. You could call programs like Rational Recovery. I encourage you to call the place I got sober, which is the 12 Steps, or Tim got sober, which is Rational Recovery. And thank you. We'll be back on next week with the great guest, Anna David from The Fix, and talking about her new book. And you're listening to KFWB News Talk 980.
Thanks for listening to KLEAN Radio. You can tap into KLEAN Radio 24/7 at KLEANradio.com, featuring a live video stream of the show, the best of KLEAN Radio, and even watch Andrew's appearance on Dr. Drew's Life Changers.
Do you suspect a loved one is abusing drugs? Call KLEAN Treatment Center at 888-601-6040 for a free drug test and consultation. A treatment advisor is available to help you administer the test and answer any questions you may have regarding treatment and more. We are here to help. Call us today at 888-601-6040 or find us online at cleantreatmentcenter.com for your free drug test and the start of a promising future.